Sirens sliced through the night like angry electricity, and the crowd moved as one violent pulse shouting, shoving, daring the line of shields to break. I should have stepped back, but the camera is my heartbeat, and I don't stop breathing when the world tilts. One rubber bullet and a flash of white pain dropped me to the asphalt. My lens skidded, screaming across concrete, and a visor of dark glass filled my frame. Then the visor lifted. Hazel eyes, sharp and alive, locked on mine, and the riot vanished to a muffled hum. His gloved hand found my arm, steady and warm, pulling me upright while guilt burned in his face. A cop-me enemy, my rescuer handed back the camera ID risked everything for, and something unspoken charged the air between us. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself to forget those eyes before morning, but the photograph in my camera would not let him go, and neither I realized would I. I was lining up the shot when the line broke. Chanting surged into a roar, shields advanced, someone threw a bottle, and the street under my knees jumped like a struck drum. I kept my Nikon to my eye because that's what I do when everything tilts. Capture it, breathe later. Through the glass eye caught a face, and burned, furious, human, and then the visor of a cop swung across the frame like a blade of light. Back, someone barked. I didn't. The photo was there, the one that makes rent and maybe changes a mind. A rubber bullet cracked, heat slammed my thigh, my focus blew apart. I tasted metal and asphalt. The camera skittered an ugly scrape, my heart shouting louder than the crowd. I reached for the body, not the bruise, because the camera is the part of me that eats another order. A gloved hand, cuffs flashed. I flinched and curled around the Nikon. The visor hovered, and behind it I saw hazel eyes. Not hard, not tonight. The cop yanked off his helmet like a man ripping off a mask. "You okay?" he said, but he didn't mean the question. His voice was low and tight, guilt braided through it. "You shot me," I said, and the corner of my mouth twitched because pain makes me stupid. He pressed 2 fingers to the bruise, careful, anchoring me to the pavement I was trying to leave. "I'm sorry," he said. "Let me help you. No swagger, no script, just the steadiness people pretend cops always have." I watched his mouth shape the words and tried to hate him. I'd grown up hating uniforms on sight, learned early that a badge can turn on you quicker than a friend. At 17, my father threw my bag into the yard and told me God could keep the son I'd ruined. I did not cry for him that night. I promised myself I wouldn't cry for anyone again. Hazel Eyes was different and exactly the same. He pulled me upright with hands that knew their own strength and refused to use all of it. He handed me my camera like it mattered, like he understood what the machine was to me. "Stay back," he said. "You are going to get hurt." "Already did," I said, and he almost smiled. The shield line swallowed him again, and I limped toward the sidewalk, every step a hot throb. I checked the lens, rolled the focus ring, fired a test frame at a light pole. Click, still alive, so was I, which felt negotiable. The crowd surged, a kid screamed, sirens wrote jagged lines in the air. I kept shooting because it's easier than feeling. I told myself I didn't memorize the nameplate I'd seen. Or the angle of his jaw when he apologized. I told myself the spark that jumped when he touched me was nerves and chemistry and nothing useful. Night swelled like a bruise. When the skirmish line finally pushed us 2 blocks and the street settled into the twitchy quiet after panic, I limped home. In my studio I cleaned blood from my jeans with club soda and curse words. I pulled the card, scrolled the frames, and there he was in one I hadn't meant to take. Visor up, eyes bare, mouth soft with worry. The shot punched through me harder than the bullet had. I set the camera down and pressed my fingers into the wound until the world blurred. I had the picture. I did not have a story that wouldn't wreck me. I told myself to sleep. I didn't. I listened for sirens that weren't there, and for a voice I'd heard once in chaos, saying he was sorry like the words cost him. I tried to write a caption, and my hands shook. My thigh pulsed like it had a second heart. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw hazel through plastic, a flicker I shouldn't name. I made tea. I didn't drink it. I paced 3 strides, stepping over cables and a crate of dead lenses. I almost called my mother and heard the click she gave me when I said boyfriend. The camera watched like a loyal animal. Past midnight the city hissed. I sat on the floor and balanced the Nikon on my knees. "It's just us," I told the metal and glass. I scrolled to the frame I should delete. He looked like a man taught to be stone. Fail. Morning turned the bruise the color of a storm. I taped my leg, iced it, and sent a handful of edits to 3 desks that sometimes remembered my name. The frames were good, heat faces, a near miss, but the one I couldn't stop looking at lived in a separate folder like contraband. I didn't know what I wanted from it except the tug in my chest. At noon my phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later a second buzz, an email through the contact form on my site. Hey, it's Rivera. I'm the one who I just wanted to check on you. Are you okay? If I owe you a camera, tell me where to send the apology and the receipt. I stared until the words blurred. I should have deleted it. I typed back instead. Still walking. Camera's fine. You don't owe me anything. The reply came fast. I disagree. Can I buy you coffee? Neutral ground, no badge. Just as sorry and caffeine. I told myself it was a bad idea. Then I sent an address. A diner near Skid Row with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who called everyone honey like she meant it. My leg ached on the walk over. My pulse did a separate thing entirely. He beat me there. Out of uniform he looked younger and somehow bigger. Black t-shirt, jeans, a face that had learned to hold steady and didn't always succeed. When he stood, the room tilted. Cruz, he said. My name in his mouth was a test I wanted to fail. He offered a hand. I took its steady heat, a callus on his thumb. How's the leg? He asked. Making threats, I said. It'll live. I'm sorry, he said again, and the way he said it made the word heavy enough to set down between us. I followed procedure, and I still hit you. I hate that I did. Hazards of proximity, I said. I don't usually get that close. Yesterday I did. You always get that close. He said, almost smiling. I looked you up. Your work is you don't flinch. I do, I said. I just move while I'm doing it. We ordered coffee and a slice that tasted like a childhood my parents never bought. We talked around the obvious like it might detonate. I learned his first name, Jack, and that head joined the force for reasons that sounded like good intentions beaten into shape. He learned I'd been living out of a camera bag since I was 19. We traded small truths until they sounded like trust forming. What were you before the badge? I asked. A son, he said. A brother. A kid who wanted to fix things his father couldn't. He picked at a sugar packet. I'm not fixing much. You got me off the asphalt, I said. That counts. He looked up fast. I almost looked away. I wanted to, he said. Nothing else, but the room seemed to hear it. My knee knocked the table. His did too. Neither of us apologized for the noise. Why coffee? I asked. You could've left it at sorry. He blew out a breath. Because last night kept replaying, because I saw your photos and then I saw you, and those were different kinds of brave, because I'm tired of pretending I don't notice what I notice. Careful. I said. My voice came out softer than I meant. That last part gets expensive. He laughed once, low. I know, we tipped well and stepped into a light that made the street look cleaner than it was. On the corner he shifted like a man at a ledge. I want to see you again, he said, off duty somewhere that doesn't smell like hot metal. My chest did its traitor thing. Text me a time, I said. You'll decide if I'm busy. He grinned, and it hit me in a place I'd bricked over. We parted, walking different ways like we hadn't just redrawn the map. The city exhaled. Bus's side. A gull looped over the power lines like it knew something I hadn't dared admit. He picked me up at 9, because walking the hill on my leg would have been me pretending not to limp. His car smelled faintly like cedar and rain even though it hadn't rained. At the overlook the city opened like a circuit board, lights blinking in patient code. He leaned on the railing, hands braced, shoulders filling his T-shirt like he could carry weight. I stood beside him and did what I do, framed him and the skyline. You brought it, he said, eyes cutting to the camera. Occupational hazard, I said. You're allowed to say no. He didn't. He turned slightly, and I pretended to care about shutter speed while I memorized details I'd pretend not to need later. The scar near his eyebrow, the way he exhaled before he said anything that mattered, the way his mouth kept secrets. Why this spot? I asked. My mother used to drive up here when my dad worked nights, he said. We'd count the cranes and make up stories about the people in the apartments. She said the city looks kinder from far away. Does it? Sometimes. He said, and the word landed like a truth you choose when the other hurts. We fell into the kind of talk you only risk with a stranger you already trust more than friends. I told him about the first time I shot a protest and how the chant felt like a tide lifting me. He told me about the first time he froze on a call and the paramedic who squeezed his shoulder without saying a word. We made each other into people, not types. It felt dangerous and necessary. A breeze came up, lifting the sweat from my back. He noticed and stepped closer, not touching, just moving his warmth into the air between us. I could smell soap and something smoky. He didn't look at my mouth. I tried not to look at his. Off duty you talk more, I said. Off duty you let people help, he said. Do I? You did last night, he said. And then he looked at my mouth like we were both translating the same sentence in a language we barely knew. I've spent a long time not hearing myself, he added. I'm tired. Something shifted in us. I tilted the camera toward the skyline and took a photo I would never show anyone. Then I lowered the camera until our shoulders touched. This is a bad plan, I said, and meant every word. I know, he said, and didn't move away. The first touch was a mistake we meant to make. His knuckles grazed mine, light as a question. I answered by letting my fingers stay. He turned his hand so our palms met, heat sliding into a place I keep cold. My chest felt like a door unlatching. He made a sound like relief and something else, and I decided we were past pretending. Kiss me, I said. Surprised I was the one who said it. He did like had been waiting since the first siren. Soft, then real, then hungrier, like we were stepping through doors and not looking back. His breath found my neck, my hand found his ribs, and stopped there, counting. I felt the warmth through cotton and skin, felt the shape of a life he held together by force and habit. He traced my jaw with rough fingers, and I forgot air was required. Tell me to stop, he said, voice unsteady, mouth close enough to ghost my skin. He didn't move until I didn't speak, and then he kissed me again, slower, a study instead of a storm, breath steadying. We didn't rush. His forehead rested against mine. I wanted his weight and his laugh, and the part of him he kept behind locked teeth. I wanted the reckless thing of falling for someone who could wreck me. He drove me home, hands at 10 and 2, like he needed the rule to keep the world from spinning. Inside, the room felt too small for what we were doing. He glanced at the photo, script, faces, a boy shouting hope, and his mouth softened in a way that hurt my throat. Stay, I said, and the word scraped. I hadn't asked anyone that in a very long time. You sure? He asked. No, I said, but yes. He toed off his boots and sat on the edge of my bed like a man entering a church. I sat beside him and felt the heat of him through denim and the careful way his shoulder leaned. We let fingers say what words couldn't carry. His hand rested on my side, warm, steady. Mine fit into the small dip above his hip like I'd known it would. When we finally lay back, it wasn't fireworks. It was oxygen returning to a room we'd forgotten to open. His breath touched my neck, my thigh pressed against his, the hum in my bones changed key. He didn't grab. He asked, I answered by moving closer. We fell asleep. In the middle of the night I woke to his hand on my ribs present. I counted beats and promised nothing to no one. In the morning he kissed my shoulder like a thank you, then pulled on his shirt without looking away. I don't do this, he said. Me neither, I said. Trying was the only thing we owned. It lasted 2 weeks before the world noticed. A protest in Koreatown went sideways, someone live, streamed the mess from a rooftop. In one shaky clip, a cop with hazel eyes stepped toward a photographer running on a bruise and steadied him by the elbow. The gesture lasted a second and ignited like dry grass. By sunset, the clip was everywhere, captions turning us into a headline. I didn't share it. I didn't have to. My mother texted a link with 3 words, "Is this you?" I set the phone down. Another buzz, "Call me now." I didn't. At roll call his partner, Delgado, waved the video and grinned. "Cute," he said, loud enough for the room. "You gonna marry the press." Laughter hit like change. No one missed the red marker on his locker. Fag. He wiped it off with practiced stillness. That night he came to my place with shoulders tight and eyes that wouldn't sit still. I locked the door and pressed my forehead to his chest. His hands found my back and stayed. "They are watching," he said. "I know. Sergeant called me in. Your personal life is creating risk for the department," he said. "He wants me to fix it." He didn't define fix. I tasted metal, old and familiar. "What does fix mean?" "It means make the problem invisible," he said. It means choose. I backed away because the room felt like a throat. Choose what? He didn't answer. My phone lit again. My father's name. I answered. What are you doing to your mother? He said by way of hello. Shame on the internet now, with a policeman, with a man. He didn't ask if I was safe. He told me I could come home if I repented. I almost laughed. When I hung up, my hands shook. Jake reached for me. I stepped sideways. The movement scared us both. He stood very still and took his hands back like ID handed him a wire. I can't lose the badge, he said quietly. It's my father. It's what I built that makes sense. I want be your secret, I said. I want shrink because your life is narrow. He flinched. I'm trying. So am I said. But trying doesn't stop a bus when it's already moving. We didn't fight. We didn't throw plates or say clever, cruel things. We sat on opposite ends of the bed with our knees touching like an accidental bridge. He said, maybe we put this on pause. I heard hide. He said, short pause. I heard until I'm safe. I said, I want wait in the dark. He looked at me like the air thinned. I don't know what else to do, he said, and that was the truest thing in the room. I could have reached for him. I could have given him the map he needed. Instead, I opened the window because the room felt like a throat. Street air rolled in, hot and ugly and real. Go home, I said, and hated myself and meant it. He nodded and went because that's what men who follow orders do. At the door he turned, mouth opening and closing like he was choosing between confession and silence. He picked silence. The door clicked, soft as a kind lie. The next day he texted, "Im suspended 3 days. Conduct unbecoming. I wanted to say I'd come over with soup. I wanted to ask him to come back. Instead I wrote, "Im fine." Be careful. My inbox filled with editors asking for my take on the clip. I sent them photos of people who weren't me and pretended not to see the frame with his eyes and my face in it. I slept in pieces and dreamed of a locker I couldn't open. The city outside kept its noise like a promise. There was another protest downtown. I taped my leg, shouldered the bag, and walked toward the noise. The march gathered at dusk like weather. Drums stitched a pulse, signs bobbed above shoulders. I moved along the edge, mapping faces and exits. No new messages from Jake. The pause had grown teeth. At Pershing Square the chant fractured, then sharpened. The line of helmets thickened. I felt the air changey a drop in pressure before a storm. I should have backed off. I stepped closer instead because old habits beat good sense every time. People ran, then ran into each other. I was pinned against a planter, shoulder jammed, the crowd flowing the wrong way. I lifted the camera and kept firing, emptying fear into the shutter. An officer swung a baton to herd bodies, and the arc carved the space above my head. Another step, and I'd be a lesson. Cruz, a voice cut through the static. My name didn't sound like an order. It sounded like a hand. I turned. Jake moved toward me, visor up, jaw tight, that careful, dangerous steadiness on his face. Jake didn't look back. He moved into the baton's space. You with me, he said, and the words were both command and plea. He took my elbow, not hard, and slipped us sideways into a seam in the crowd. You can't be here, he said, breath loud under the plastic. I live here, I said, because when Im scared him an idiot, a trash can went over, fire licked up fast. Heat rolled, people shoved, someone fell. Jake swore and pushed me behind a pillar. Stay, he said, and left me like a heart on a table. He moved like he knew every bad thing and tried to stand in front of it. I watched him pull a kid up, keep a cop from swinging too low, speak into his radio with clipped comm. Delgado saw him glance my way and drew a throat. Cut. I stayed. Smoke smeared the block. The crowd surged toward us. The pillar stopped being cover. I was dragged forward. The camera strap jerked, biting my neck. A hand grabbed for the body. I gripped it, teeth bared. The strap snapped. The camera vanished under shoes. My stomach dropped. I went after it because I don't know how not to. A boot clipped my shin, elbows jabbed, and then the crowd cleared like a curtain whipped aside. The camera lay in the gutter, cracked. I lunged, caught it, and a hand closed on my wrist iron. Firm. Enough, Jake said. His visor was up again, his eyes were wrecked and focused both. You hear me, enough. We leaned there, breathing. You're bleeding, he said, touching my cheek with one knuckle, not claiming more. The touch found every wire ID left exposed. You're suspended, I said, because the world is ridiculous. Back tomorrow, he said. They want me to act like a picture. I can't. Before he could say more, Delgado appeared at the mouth of the alley, helmet under his arm, smirk sharpened to a point. "Look at this," he said. "Romeo and Juliet behind the dumpsters." "Not now," Jake said. "Oh, now," Delgado said. I called. "They're scraping your socials, Rivera. They like the video." He tilted his head, eyes landing on my camera. "And you're the reason he's going to lose his pension." I swallowed the instinct to answer with my face. Jake stepped between us. "Go to your job, Tommy. This is my job," Delgado said. "Protect the department." He lifted his phone. "Put it away," Jake said. "It wasn't a threat. It was a line." Delgado blinked first. "Enjoy the dumpster date," he said, and walked back into the smoke. We didn't move. The alley held us. After a while Jake said, "I can't keep you safe and keep my job the way they want me to." "I don't want a bodyguard," I said. "I want you." I let it stand. He stared at his hands like they might confess. "I want you too," he said. "But they're not bluffing." "I know. I have 1 week to be quiet," he said. Interview, union rep, my father calling and saying nothing I can answer. And then, "I don't know," he said. "Transfer, desk or out." He looked up. "Come with me, not away just with me. Don't make me do this alone. Then we do it loud enough to hear each other," I said. We walked out together. The fire was out. The street was relief and aftermath. I took one frame of his hand near mine, not touching. Proof we still moved. That night he slept on my couch while I watched streetlight draw a blade across the ceiling. In the morning he made coffee like Head always done it there. He set a mug in my hand. "Interviews at 2, he said. "It'll be nearby," I said. "I know," he said, and drank like the cup was an anchor. He finished the coffee and left at noon. I waited across from the glass building where internal affairs lives. A camera bag at my feet, and a coffee I didn't drink cooling in my hand. The afternoon glare made everyone look exhausted. At 2:20 Jake walked up the steps with his suit jacket wrung on his shoulders, like Head never worn it for anything but weddings and grief. He saw me, didn't stop or wave. His mouth softened enough. He vanished inside a door that closed slow and heavy. The hour after that had one noise, my heart drilling time. I shot nothing. At 3, Jake emerged, tie loosened, eyes flat. At the curb he exhaled like released air. "They asked for a statement," he said. I gave one. "What kind?" "The kind that hurts," he said. "The kind you make when a room is designed to make you doubt." They asked if the video is accurate. He said yes. They asked if it had been happening longer. He said no. They asked if Head favor me. He said Head favor people not bleeding on the sidewalk. "That last part won't test well," I said. They asked if I would deny any personal relationship with you, he said, voice like glass under stress. They asked if I would sign it, and I didn't sign, he said. Yet, he added, reporters spilled from the lobby poured. Microphones rose. Cruz comment, a man asked, "Officer, are you compromised?" A woman said. Their words had the practiced shine of people who do this daily. Jake's jaw went hard. He squared up. "My comment," he said, looking at me first, "is that I respond to people in hurt and in danger. That is the job. The video shows me doing the job." "And the relationship?" a woman asked, voice sharp enough to open boxes you shouldn't open in daylight. He looked at the building. He looked at me. An internal ledger flipped pages. "No," he said, "there is no relationship. The world made a pop." I didn't move. The crowd turned away. "Walk with me," he said like we were two men leaving a meeting. In a side street shadowed by a parking structure, he said, "I couldn't give them our names, not today. You gave them mine," I said. "You told them I was no one. I'm buying time," he said. "You bought it with me." He took a breath that almost broke. "Aiden, I thought I could hold both truths in one hand. I can't. Say the other one," I said. "Say it while no one is filming." He closed his eyes. "I love you," he said. "I love you, and I don't know how to be the man who says that and keeps the badge that made me." I leaned against the wall because my legs failed. "You can be a different man," I said. "Change your life. Easy sentence, hard world." He shook his head. "Every story I've told myself ends with me in a uniform. If I take it off, I don't know who I'm walking home as." "Maybe you walk home as yourself," I said. He laughed without humor. "You make it sound survivable." "It is," I said, and believed it and didn't. A car rolled by, bass thudding. We stood in that noise. Jake looked at my mouth and didn't move. "I need a night," he said. "To choose and mean it. You've had nights," I said quietly, "but take this one too." He nodded and pressed his forehead to mine the way a man leans into a stubborn door. "I'm sorry," he said, "for the lobby. I know," I said, hand on his neck, feeling the steady that means a person is still here. That night I did not sleep. I watched the clip of him saying no on repeat until the edges blurred. A text from an unknown number linked to a thread of screenshots, me at rallies at the diner, in silhouette behind my own window. A private account had been watching us. A second link led to a comment from a name I knew, my father. "Pray for my son," had written. It should have stung. It made me cold. I typed erased. When the light slid under the blinds, I was still at the desk, waiting for a knock that didn't come. On the side street he almost took my hand and stopped, muscles arguing with training. I could see the kid he had been, the one who learned that wanting is a thing you hide. I wanted to tell that kid he could eat. When night dropped, the city grew new eyes. The thread wasn't just screenshots, it was timestamps, maps, a note about the coffee I buy Tuesdays. Someone had drawn a red circle around my window. He didn't call the next day. He didn't call the day after. I told myself to stop refreshing the thread. I went to work and came home and stood barefoot in the kitchen drinking water. On the third night he buzzed my door at 11:42. I checked the camera out of habit and saw his face stripped of uniform. I let him in, stepped back, and watched him look at the room. "I made a decision," he said. "Tell me." I turned in my badge, he said, and for a second the floor moved under us. I wrote the report. I signed the thing I refused yesterday, me resignation, not the denial. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No," he said, and yes. "I don't know who I am in the mornings now, but I can breathe. I couldn't say no to you there and then say yes to you here. I chose one answer." I nodded and let the ache be both. "Then stay," I said. "We didn't celebrate. We sat close and let our bodies speak." This was always under the noise. By morning he made eggs. "Well, be broke," he said. "I'm already broke," I said. "Well, be consistent." By noon a segment ran with the lobby video and an old photo of me. My father posted another prayer. The thread added a fresh image. Last night, Jake at my door, my hand on the lock. The circle around my window thickened. By 3 there was knocking. A knock with authority. "A Cruz," a voice called. "A Rivera," polite. "Cold, we don't run," Jake said, and I believed him and didn't. My phone buzzed with a new message, my building from across the street. I thought of rooms I'd kept locked, truths I'd sold for rent, photos I'd taken to hold strangers still. I thought of his first touch, the no in the lobby, the love in the parking structure. I thought of the life under those words without a name. "Together," he said, and the word landed like a hand around mine. I nodded. I reached for the deadbolt. Silence swelled. From the hall came the faint elevator bell and shoes turning, then stillness again. Someone waited. We could smell cologne we didn't own. Jake touched the counter with 2 fingers, like testing a wire. "We can call a lawyer," I said. "For what?" he asked, not unkind. The phone buzzed again. Another photo. Our window, a strip of light. A message talk. I thought of the overlook, of doors Wed walked through without checking the locks. I thought of how openings are also edges. Together, I slid the strap across my neck and felt the familiar weight choose aside. Before I turned it, I raised the camera and took one photo, our reflections in the dark screen, his face next to mine, the door a thin line between us and whatever waited. The shutter clicked. We stood very still. I turned the lock.